He's come to us today from Georgia. He's going to speak to you guys about airline qualification standards, which is the next phase beyond the commercial pilot. Well, I'll let him speak on it. Dan, if you want to come take the stage. For you guys following along at home, there will be no PowerPoint presentation or electronic presentation. Dan's old school. He's going to do everything right here for you.
I am old school. Thank you, Joe.
Yep. All right, take it away. Oh, we will have food coming sometime between 12 and 12:30. So.
Perfect. Well, welcome. We'll cut to the chase and make this enjoyable. If you've ever been to one of these meetings where you're going, when will this be over? I know you're stuck here, but there's going to be food and there's going to be all kinds of cool stuff. So hang with me. This is also on YouTube, and it'll be archived on YouTube. I have a tiny little itty bitty fledgling YouTube channel that I put stuff out on occasionally. So we're actually live on YouTube, so don't say anything that you don't want on YouTube. It'll be a little bit interactive. I have a couple of you up here with me for this, and basically, I think we have between 11 and 1, right? And we got a little break in there for food. It's going to be someplace in the middle. So I'd like to introduce myself and thank Joe. Community College of Baltimore County brought me up here, and I do a lot of these. I say a lot. I do a couple of these per month. I'm a retired Delta Airlines captain, but I've been a CFI for almost 40 years. So I've been a hardcore CFI, and I'm still a CFI. I do CFI, double I teach multi, I teach turbine, I teach jet, I teach radial, I teach tailwheel. I own a DC-3. I give type ratings in the DC-3. So the whole spectrum has pretty much been my life the whole time. Some of the stuff that you guys are about to see and experience as you start your careers and go up through flight school, I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up about what's coming for you and some of the things that you can do to help your career as you go along. So welcome, and thanks for showing up. I shouldn't say thanks for showing up. You have to be here. I mean, you got no choice. Let me get an idea, basically via a show of hands, where we're at. Who here has soloed an airplane? Okay, just about everybody. Who here has a private pilot's license? At least. There you go. Who here at least has a single engine instrument rating? All right, good. Who here has a commercial pilot certificate? Still a couple. And anybody in here that's a CFI that teaches?
Or helicopters.
Helicopters. We don't count helicopters. Those are not.
That's all right. I'm dual rated.
Those things should not fly. There's no.
We know that.
There is no
That's why
logical
we like
reason.
it so much.
Don't do helicopters. Those things, it's a million parts moving in formation, and you lose one of those, it's like. No, I appreciate the whole helicopter thing. It's a fantastic segment. I've just always been a fixed wing guy. A couple months ago, they did let me try to fly a helicopter, and I can tell you, I'm terrible at it. Absolutely terrible at the whole helicopter thing. So let's back up and talk about why I'm here for this particular thing. You guys are starting your careers, and you're going all the way up through what you have to do to get your certifications. Your school, in conjunction with the 5 flight schools that your community college is working with, is basically a Part 61 program that has expanded into 141. So let me see a show of hands here. In flight training right now, are you 141? If you're a 141 program, raise your hand. Just about everybody. Anybody that's at your flight school that's pure Part 91, that's not doing the 141 thing? Just one. Okay. So basically, your college has linked with these flight schools, and you're doing the 141. I'll go over the difference real quick. Part 61 flight schools, basically, you just take a look at the FARs, the ACS. You have an instructor. It's kind of a mom and pop kind of a thing. You get to save a little bit of the paperwork. You don't have to do stage checks. Have you guys done stage checks yet? You don't have to do that. You just take your flight training and go through it and get it done. You actually have a little bit of an advantage doing the 141 program because it does save you a little bit of time. There's some corners that you can cut. If the program is set up properly, you can actually get a very, very good education via the 141 program doing it that way. So if you're in it and got a program and a graduation date and a goal and you're on track, stay with the 141 thing. It's a very good deal. Right now, it's hard to find an airplane that you can rent and a CFI and a mom and pop. Those deals are hard to find. They are out there. So anyway, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my personal history of flying. I was a captain at Delta Airlines. I'm not saying all this to brag. I just want to let you know the basis that I'm coming from. I flew flight instruction and freight until I flew for Walmart back in Arkansas. I lived in Walmart. Anybody ever hear of Sam Walton? I flew for the Waltons and Walmart, and that's where I got my very, very first experience with a Learjet, which I had never been in, but I was flying turboprops, and then Walmart decided to get Learjets. They got a couple old Lear 35As, and then in 1990, they bought a brand new Lear 31A. So in 1990, anybody in here that was actually alive in 1990? Couple. In 1990, I found myself in the right seat of a Lear 31A, and what a rocket. I mean, wait till you guys get to try this. Wait till you get to see turbojet operations. It is unbelievable. Now, it will kill you in a heartbeat as well, but I did that, and then I moved to Atlanta. I took a job flying several turboprops. I got involved in citations and things like that, and then I eventually got hired at Delta. I went all through Delta. In my early days at Delta, I flew the line as a co-pilot, which is what they call a first officer. When you become a first officer, which I hope most of you eventually will, you're going to be someplace. You have to go through all their training, whatever company you're working for. I got introduced to a concept called AQP. Now, raise your hand if you've ever heard of AQP. Anybody? That's where I thought. That's a big zero. Everybody here not heard of AQP. That's why I'm here. I'll tell you what it is. And when I got to Delta and I went through to do my initial training and my initial first check rides, I was thinking that they're going to pull out the PTS and a piece of paper and we're going to do the check rides. What maneuvers are on the check ride for an initial type rating in an MD-88, which is what I was flying? Well, they got to be the steep turn, right? It's got to be an engine failure. It's got to be a rejected takeoff. All those things are in the PTS. So I'm thinking this is how it's going to be, and I go through there. Day one, they sit you down and tell you, we're not doing that. That is not the program we're doing. They said, we have this thing called AQP, and we're doing AQP. And I said, wait a minute. No, you're not. You have to teach. This is a check ride. I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know that they had congressional approval to do AQP. So I'm going to tell you what that stands for. Advanced Qualification Program, AQP. AQP came from, remember, out of any tragedy that occurs in life, we get better. When an accident happens, when something bad happens, we go through and we find a fix. It's because something bad happens that we evolve and make things better. That's how we ended up with a Corvette. We started off with the Model T, and we evolved all the way up to that. We ended up with the 777 because we started with the Wright brothers, and we crashed it. It wasn't powerful enough. The wing was terrible. We kept on making refinements. We did not set out on day one to build a 777. Can't be done. It's the evolution of process. So AQP started as an evolution of finding a way to fix the problem. What was the problem? You tell me. What was the problem that they had to have a fix for? Anybody? They're crashing airplanes. Now think about it. If you own an airline and you're hauling people and they're paying you money, is crashing your airplane and killing people a good thing or a bad thing? It's not good. And when it happens over and over and over again, you have all the ramifications of things that happen when you crash an airplane. So they got together, several committees got formed with these airlines. They sat down at a big round table and said, what can we do about this? The idea was that all these airlines that are being crashed and problems that they were having, they were being flown by people who could execute the steep turn perfectly in the simulator with an examiner on board. Does that make sense? If you're an airline pilot, what do you think the odds are that guy can take a DC-9 and go do a steep turn? Probably can. Now, what's that got to do with anything? Who's ever been flying along in flight and had to do a steep turn with passengers on board in order to save the day? Doesn't happen. All the maneuvers that you use to get your pilot's license, those are maneuvers and things, demonstrations of proficiency and skill. They are not a way to handle a crisis. So what's happening is these guys get their pilot's license, they go out and fly, and they end up flying the line, and something happens to them. Something happens to them. It's a crisis. It's an event. What is the event that happened to this guy, and how did he handle it? This is the exact same thing that's going to happen to you guys. Who here thinks that you're going to fly your whole career and nothing ever happened to you? No. No. It is definitely, you're about to get bit. And when you get bit, do you think you'll be surprised? Yeah. Because those guys that sit behind the magic curtains and decide how you're going to get bit, they don't tell you in advance what they're going to do to you. Bam. It happens. And that's all it is. When it happens, the shock and surprise off of that causes all kinds of problems. So the airlines got together and they said, you know what? Let's take all the bad things, the documented bad things that have happened in the past, let's categorize them, and let's make our check rides, our initial training and our check rides, purely centered around the concept that they already know how to do a steep turn, they already know how to do this. Let's make our entire check ride book based on the things that can only go wrong in flight. You guys are gonna have something go wrong in flight, I guarantee you. So I'm gonna do a demonstration right now to help illustrate that, and I'm gonna pick out this guy out of the audience, random guy, because he's right here in the first row. Come on up here. You volunteered, yes sir. Hop in here so I can get you in the camera here. There you go. There you go. You can see the screen there.
Oh,
there,
yeah.
There you go. So you're on YouTube. Hey, what's your name?
Pedro.
Pedro?
Yep.
All right, cool. Tell me about your flying career. Where are you at in your flying career?
I'm only at about like 22 hours right now.
Yeah.
But it's funny you said about anything could go wrong because I've already had electrical failure.
Have you?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, nothing. I haven't soloed yet, but I'm almost there. So.
Yeah, cool. What kind of airplane are you flying?
Oh, 170. Oh my god.
Now, did you see what this guy did? Did you see him flinch? How much did he flinch? He didn't jump back, but you said, oh my God, your face went like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Just a reaction.
That was a reaction. That was a reaction. Now watch this. Check this out. Pedro, in the next 10 seconds, I'm gonna do the exact same thing to you, okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
I want you to be stone-faced. It's coming. You ready?
Yep.
Here it goes. I'm gonna do the exact same thing. See the difference? What's the difference? He's aware of what's about to happen. Totally different. In the time of crisis and surprise, your body's gonna flinch, your eyes are gonna go closed, your brain's gonna shut down. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate you not punching me. Does that make sense to you? So AQP takes all the things that could go wrong, categorizes them. Now we throw Pedro in the simulator and we give him an electrical failure in combination with smoke. How does he handle it? Well, first time, probably not very good. After 7 times through the same scenario, learning what the sequence is and what to do, is Pedro conditionable? Yes, he is. That's the difference between training and conditioning. If I trained him, I would tell him, Pedro, when you have this electrical problem, here's what to do. That's not training. I got to put him in the environment, step him through that exact same thing, 7, 8, 9, 10 times until I've eliminated the surprise. And I've taught him exactly how to respond to it. Now think about this. When your crisis occurs, your brain is not only going to shut down, but the very next thing that you're going to do, you're going to drop into troubleshooting. You're going to try to figure out, and you're going to try to think. Now, Pedro here only has the 2 brain cells in the first place, and in that time of crisis, one of them is sputtering, right? Yes. Can't do it. What happens if you take each one of these scenarios and step you through its education, its training, and then we condition you? You put enough cycles through this that you actually totally figure this thing out and you're ready for it. Pedro, what are the odds of you handling an abnormal in-flight if you've trained it, you're educated on it, and you've been conditioned? What do you think your odds are of handling it better?
Pretty high. Yeah.
Very high, yes. So, all these knuckleheads at these tables, the big dogs from all the airlines sat around drinking their coffee thinking, what can we do about this? Well, let's get all these scenarios, all the wisdom of all the ages, everything that's ever been known to mankind that could ever happen to you in an airplane. Let's put them all out, let's drag them all out here, and we're gonna build this thing called the AQP training program. Yes. And then we're gonna take it to the FAA. FAA is gonna take it to Congress. Congress doesn't know anything about anything. They're just gonna stamp it, okay, sounds good to us. Did it work? Yes. Oh, it worked fantastic. Now, you guys know all about the chandelle, right? Who's done a chandelle? I've been an airline captain. You tell me, how many times have I ever been flying along in flight, have something go wrong, and I get on the PA and I say, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Things are not looking really good right now, but I'm going to go ahead and perform the chandelle and get us out of this. So hang tight. The chandelle is gonna do it for us, and hang tight, right? When has that ever happened? No. The chandelle's not going to fix anything. It's a proficiency maneuver. It's designed to tell whether or not you can control the airplane. In the time of crisis, will the chandelle help you? No. None of those. So let's put them in categories. Normal, over here, for training, there's no surprise. Let's click over here to AQP. It's 100% surprise. It's 100% scenarios. That's all it is. Now, how does that relate to you? You're still a human being. What's your number one goal here? Where'd that come from? There's a genius right there. He said it. You want to survive. It's going to happen to you. We don't really care about being in the airplane. We want you to survive. What is the correlation between your survival and your preparation? A lot. Yeah, tell me what your name is. Ben? All right, I'm writing that down. I'm gonna turn that in to the. No, I'm kidding you. Ben. All right, Ben. Are you a private pilot? Working on it. Okay. About how many hours do you have?
44-ish.
44-ish. All right. There you go. Perfect. Well, I appreciate that. Yes, survival is what it is. We're trying to survive out there. You guys. Yes, you've got goals of getting a job, buying a house, a small puppy for your girlfriend. Fine. None of that's any good if you don't survive. The event. You didn't select to be basket weavers, did you? Your career choice. What's the danger in becoming a basket weaver? What's the odds of getting killed if you were a basket weaver or a draftsman? 0. What's the odds of getting seriously killed flying an airplane? It could definitely happen. You can definitely die in your airplane. Don't do that. You have to learn what's about to happen to you. It's critical. So here I am back at Delta in the sim for the first time, and I'm saying I'm not seeing it. I don't understand what's all this stuff. And more importantly, now this is before the days of the ACS, I'm saying Where's your PTS? How come we're in the simulator and you don't have a PTS? That's practical test standards. That's what came before the ACS. How come you don't have a PTS out in the simulator? Well, we don't need one of those. We have AQP. The whole world switched over to AQP. US Air US Air was one of the founding people. And I hate to say it, but you know why that was? US Air was one of the ones with the worst safety problem. He's nodding in agreement. This man back here did US Air, American Airlines. He flew everything all the way up to the top, just like I did. He can tell you there were some serious problems at US Airways in those years when AQP came around. Congress said okay, FAA said okay. Chun chun, we stamp it, start handing this thing out. The biggest benefit to the whole AQP thing is that each airline gets to custom build their own AQP. Why is that an advantage? Well, American has their own set of dumb stuff that they do. Americans got their own set of dumb guys going into their dumb airports. They have to, dumb. The whole thing is dumb. Could we build a check ride scenario for these guys at this base going into this airport? Absolutely. Delta had their own. United had their own. Each airline gets to build their finite set of training with the goal being of reduce our accidents, incidents, for sure our fatals, as low as we can get them to go. Each person here in this room is an individual. You're unique. The things that you do, the way you brush your teeth, the way you get out of bed, the way you drive your car, those are all unique to you. Each airline is that specifically unique. Each AQP program becomes unique, and the airline's got the latitude to change that around to the way that they wanted it to be. Does it make sense? All right, I'm gonna take about a 1-minute break and ask if there's any questions. If there's anything that you want clarified so far here. This is completely informal. Anything that I've said that doesn't make sense, or anybody want to throw anything in there? You good? Yes, sir.
Is the AQP that they put back in the still the same one today?
Good question. Is the AQP that they invoked in the 90s the same AQP that's around today? It's a great question. It has evolved. Everything evolves. AQP started there. Each airline continuously fine-tunes and refines it. How do you fine-tune and refine AQP so that the AQP they started in the 90s is not the same one today? On what basis could it possibly be?
Statistics regarding failures.
Data. It's data. AQP in the airlines has data. Where are they getting their data from? All right, here's another term I'm going to throw out here because you're all going to hear it. You guys that are going out here to fly these airplanes and do all this stuff, you're going to hear about this. You're going to hear about AQP. You're going to hear about FOQA. Raise your hand if you've heard of FOQA. Raise your hand if you've heard of ADSB. Okay? FOQA is for the airlines what ADSB is for you guys. When you go out and fly your 172, I can watch where you're going. You got ADSB. I can follow. I got ADSB exchange. I got FlightAware. We can watch. FOQA takes the data off the airplane, including airspeed, altitude, flaps, configuration, gear. It's transmitting data blocks back to the company, so that if you come flying in on an ILS, a 777 has a flap speed, a max flap speed. If you throw the flaps out 1 knot over the max flap speed, are you going to hear about it? Yes, you will. Now that data doesn't get sent to the feds. That data gets sent to the company, and via your union and your rep, stuff like that, then you get a phone call. Now when FOQA came out, we didn't know much about it. I was one of those guys that liked to fly kind of fast, throw the gear out at the last second, and make the first high speed. It's fun. When FOQA came out, they said, well, you're not really stabilized. You threw the gear out 2 knots below the max flap speed. You configured late, and you didn't have full flaps and final check done until 300 feet. I said, yeah, that's true, but boy, was it fun. Well, can't do it. The first phone call that you get that says, let's talk about your approach going into Chicago. Let's talk about it. Here's the speed that you were at. Here's the altitude you're at. Here's where you threw your first notch of flaps out. Here's where you configured, and here's where you were. Here's the point where you were finally configured. They have all that data. They have it. No accident happened. No incident happened. If an accident does happen, they've got that data as well. They've got flight data. They can pull the black boxes out of the airplane, but they've also got FOQA data. FOQA is a snitch. They are absolutely watching everything that you're doing. Everything. Did that have an effect on slowing down the accident rate? It slowed me down. First phone call I got, yes, sir. Won't happen again. I'll be right in the middle of everything. The difference is now I know that they're watching. Kind of zaps a little bit of the fun out of it. Gotta admit, flying an 800,000 pound airplane is kind of fun. But we got bank limits, we got speed limits, we have min speed limits, we have min maneuvering speed limits, we have gear limits, we got flap speed limits. All those limitations, you have to know the limitations. You got to stay right in the middle or else your phone's going to ring. Okay, I get it. FOQA took all that stuff. Now, the original question, did they alter AQP based on time? Yes, and it's all because of FOQA. It's based on incidents, accidents, things that have happened in FOQA data. AQP for each airline is continuously evolving all the time. Now, check the time here. We're good. How does that relate to why you're here today? You guys aren't flying a 777 today. You're flying little airplanes. What I did was I took my experience. I eventually became an AQP instructor at Delta, an AQP examiner. I got fully immersed, and once I understood what they were doing, ooh, this makes perfect sense. Oh, perfect sense. You take the scenario that American Airlines did going into San Jose at night, raining circle to land. There's the problem. There's the problem right there. We're no longer doing that. We're going to put some policies in place. We're going to put some min speeds in place. We're going to fix that. FOQA absolutely changed that. The fact that the guys are now aware that you are being watched, that changes everything. You come through the simulator, guess what? You're going to get the night raining circle to land San Jose approach, and it's on your check ride. It's no longer a gee whiz thing. It's a pass or fail. You have to do that scenario. You know, we had several of them at Delta, which were like wind shear on approach, wind shear after takeoff. Why did Delta put wind shear on their AQP check rides? Wind shear on approach was a huge AQP training environment. Why would that be? Well, it's because they lost an L1011 going into Dallas a few years ago in the wind shear, got slow to power up. You guys remember that crash? Probably very few do. Killed a lot of people. Huge wake-up call concerning wind shear. Is wind shear now an AQP check ride? Absolutely. It is for everybody. I don't care if you're United, Delta, American. Wind shear alert. How do you respond to the wind shear? How do you do it? How many times do you have to be conditioned? Your brain has to be fully conditioned. How many times do you have to go through that so that you'll respond instantly the correct way? That's building a pilot. That's how we build pilots. You're turning yourself into a pilot right now. You're going to get this stuff hammered into you later on, because I promise you're going on to some other place. You're definitely going to end up in a simulator. You're definitely going to end up flying a jet. You're going to end up in these situations. I hope that your AQP scenario training has fully equipped you to respond properly in a time of crisis. That make sense? That's all it is. I promise you, you're going to see it. There's no doubt about it. So I took that education, that training. My eyes were opened to the whole thing. I took all of that, and being a GA guy, I'm really a GA guy. I've owned little airplanes, flown little airplanes. I still fly little airplanes. I do all that kind of stuff. I'm a GA guy, basically. I was never in the military, mostly because they wouldn't let me in. No, I'm kidding. I applied to be in the Quiet Birdman. Anybody ever heard of the Quiet Birdman? No, it's a organization that you can, it's like a club. It's called the Quiet Birdman. I applied to be in the Quiet Birdman. I got a letter back from them about a month ago, and they said, "Dear Dan, you're not that quiet." So, okay. I took this AQP concept and I converted it over to general aviation. This is about 10 years ago. I started looking at how are we killing ourselves in our GA airplanes? How many GA airplane crashes, fatal GA airplane crashes, do we have per month in America? Well, let me back up before that. How many airliner crashes per month are we having right now? 0. We go year after year after year. The 121 world hasn't had a fatal, with the exception of Southwest and Philly, who had the lady get kind of sucked out the window. That wasn't really a training thing. And then it's been years before that. We haven't lost an airliner shooting an ILS and drove it into the ground. We haven't done that in 15 years. It's been a long time. Our 121, when this AQP thing hit, it turned us into almost a spotless record. And it's all 100% of AQP. FOQA, AQP, conditioning, the scenarios. We threw away the Shondell. I always wanted to do a Shondell in a 777. They wouldn't let me do it. No need for that. Sure would be fun, but we didn't do it. So I took AQP and I started thinking about this. How can we end up fixing this in general aviation? Now, I just asked you the question a second ago. How many general aviation fatal accidents do we have per month in America? Just in America, general aviation. Somebody give me an answer. I'm sorry? Up until 5 or 6 years ago, our average was 18 to 20 per month. General aviation fatal accidents. Yeah, see the surprise on his face? That's a lot, isn't it? 20 of them per month. All of them repeatable. How many out of those 20, I'm not talking 20 per year, I'm talking 20 per month. How many of them were caused by scenarios that happened to the pilot in flight where he was shocked, surprised, and did not handle it properly? How many? Oh, yes. Who said that? There's a genius right there. He's right. Almost all of them. Almost. If that's the president for me, just tell him. Is that the president? Oh, okay, all right. He calls me all the time, so. Almost all of them. Almost all these accidents are fatal. So I took this stuff here and I'm not a computer guy. I'm terrible on computers. I've gotten better here lately, but I'm horrible on computer. I actually started about 8 years ago. I started looking at the GA accidents, and I'd have an index card. Every time an accident happened and somebody got killed, I'd take out an index card, and I'm physically writing it down on an index. You guys know what index cards are? I don't know, these young millennials or everything, iPad, everything. We used to have pencils and E6B and paper and notepads. That's what we used to have. So I took these index cards, and every time a fatal accident happened and somebody got killed, I'd write down the end number, the date, where it was, and everything I knew about it, and kind of what it looked like. Well, what really happened to this guy? I don't know. All I can tell you is that he took off. The witnesses heard the engine sputter, and the airplane was found a half mile off the end of the runway. But how was the airplane found? When I saw the pictures of it, what's the orientation of the airplane? Well, if it's vertical with the tail sticking up in the air, what does that mean? It's a stall. It's a stall spin. It quit flying. You guys ever remember those things that we used to have when we were kids called lawn jarts? You throw them way up in the air, and they go way high, and they stick straight in the ground. They were a lot of fun. I mean, you could get seriously hurt. It's got a metal pointy thing on it. You throw it up in the air, and the thing is going to come down and stick straight in the ground. An airplane is a lawn jar. It's just going to stick straight in the ground. When it quits flying, it becomes an earth-seeking device. The nose is going to point straight down. What's the odds of survivable? If you're in your airplane, what's the odds of surviving? If you're in your airplane and you impact Mother Earth vertical, what's your odds of surviving? Ain't going to happen. So I started looking at all these accidents. How did the airplane hit? Was there a fire on board? Was there ice? Was there weather? Was it IMC? What was? So I started breaking all these things into categories, and it's easy to do because I've got 20 per month. I mean, my kitchen table's full of these index cards. Eventually, I had to sort them out. After 6 months, I've got these index cards everywhere. So I went to the store and I bought some red Solo cups. You guys ever seen red Solo cups? And I lined up my red Solo cups with a little bit of masking tape on each red Solo cup. And for each index card, I tried to kind of basically paraphrase, what was this accident about? What was the basic deal? And I'd take that index card and I'd drop it into the appropriate red Solo cup that I had labeled. I started breaking them up into categories, and eventually it all started to make sense. These are all repeatable general aviation things that are going to happen to you. I came up with about 20 or 22 of these things. These are the same 20 things, I promise you, that are going to happen to you guys. Whatever airplanes you're flying. I heard Cessna, somebody here's flying a Piper. Who's flying a Piper here? Nope. There's a Piper guy right there, Piper. Each airplane, each school, each place, you've got all these kind of things. So I made a video with another YouTube guy. It was back in the summer of 17. I wasn't a YouTube guy back then. I'm not really right now. I do YouTube and the speaking thing just to get the word out. I try to visit schools, colleges, flight schools, things like that, wherever I can, so that I can kind of get the word out. But I was not aware of YouTube. I had to take the DC-3 up to Oshkosh that year, and I was under a contract to give some rides to some people, which is fine, whatever. And they came to me and they said, hey, tomorrow morning we want you to roll the DC-3 out, and we're gonna, we want you to give a ride to a YouTuber. And I said, what's a YouTuber? So, well, it's a YouTuber is a guy that's got a really big YouTube channel and a really big following. And I said, for what? Why would we waste the gas to give a ride to a YouTube guy? You want to give a ride to a magazine or a print or something like that, something that you can tangibly see. We'll give an airplane ride to somebody of substance, but not a YouTube guy. This is back when YouTube was still pretty infant. So we did it, and sure enough, that video is still on the air today. That video got 1.2 million views. Like, everybody in aviation at the time saw that video, and I was like, wow. How many of you guys lay around at night tonight, in the evening? Do you pull out your paper book, or do you go on YouTube? Huh? Tell me the truth.
YouTube.
Both?
YouTube.
Music? Do you spend time getting education from Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube? Do you look around? Do you scroll through? Do you look for interesting things in aviation as a part of your education? Yes? Raise your hand if you do. A little bit. Oh, yeah, that's everybody. So now we've evolved. In my time, all we had was a paper manual, a paper book, and if you want to read about a stall, you're going to pick up the book and go to the stall chapter and read about it. Now, you guys are laying around in bed at 11 o'clock at night looking at YouTube about stalls. That's what you're doing. So the whole concept of using social media and education to get the idea across hit me. Wow, we do have the capability to do this. So I did a whole bunch of stuff with some other YouTube channels. I kind of got my feet wet in seeing how they did it. And then about 3 years ago, I started my own YouTube channel. I wrote this curriculum with one of the other YouTubers. Actually, I wrote it, and then I did some videos with him. But I paraphrased all the 20 ways of killing yourself in a GA airplane, the 20 really good ways of killing yourself in a GA airplane, and what to do about it. You can take these, go out with your CFI. Do you need 141 approval to read this? No. Remember, 141 is your minimum. That's all it is. 141 is your minimum that you have to do to get that done. Is it possible to go above and beyond extracurricular, extra education? Is it possible for you to do that? Yes, I encourage you to. So you can learn about these things. Some of these things that are going to happen to you, they're on here. It's about a 40-page PDF. It's free. You can read about it. You can start practicing these things. Some of these things that are on here, I promise you, are going to happen to you for sure. You know, we lost a bonanza in Augusta, Georgia yesterday. A dad, a young guy, he was actually a professor at a university in Augusta, Georgia. He's in his A36, he had one young child at home. He took off in his bonanza. He had a reduction in thrust after takeoff. His engine rolled back. It didn't quit, but it rolled back. What do you think that guy tried to do? He tried to turn around. Is he alive today? No, he is not. Not only is he not alive, his death in that airplane is a horrible death. Trapped in the airplane, it hit, and it's on fire. They can't get him out. He tried to turn around. It's in here. It might be possible to turn around sometimes, but sometimes it's not. He stalled his airplane. We are actually going to Augusta tomorrow to see that crash site. I'll probably put it on my channel. Is it bad? Is it morbid to go to these sites, look at this, see the path, see what happened, and tell you guys so you can lay in bed and look at YouTube and see the whole path? Here's the whole story. Here's what he did wrong. Is that good or bad? Well, I think it's good. I think we have to see it. You elected to be pilots. The little box was right below it for basket weaving. That's not the one you checked. You want to be pilots. His reduction of thrust after takeoff happened to him. Did he handle it properly? I don't think he did. I'll know better tomorrow, but I don't think that he did. So all these things are the scenarios. I also started keeping track several years ago of the number of general aviation fatal accidents that happen per month. We had been at 18 and 20 for a long, long time. In the last 5 years, we've seen that start to go slowly down. I call it number of fatal accidents per month on an annual basis. So I track this. I watch every single accident as it occurs in real time. My phone normally rings within about 60 minutes after somebody gets killed in a plane crash. I've already got pictures. I know who it was, where they were. I got a network of people all over the country that will ping me and say, I'm here, here's the picture, here's what happened. And I put them on these sheets. I do this little broadcast on Sunday nights on my YouTube channel. It's normally got, I don't know, each one of those normally gets 50 or 80,000 views off of there. I do a weekly update. Those videos are only on the air for 6 days. I just keep them fresh. Every Sunday night I do another one. And I always publish these things. Here's the last guys to get killed in the last 6 days. Here's who they are. Here's their name, their end number, and here's what they did. Very few new ideas. You guys are not going to make up a new way of killing yourself in an airplane. You're not going to do it. It's going to be one of these. So here's our numbers that we've had since we just finished up the first 1/3 of the year. January, February, March, April. That's 4 months. That's 1/3 of the year. What was our total fatal accident rate per month averaged out, considering that we've only got 1/3 of the year done? What number did we end up in for 2024? Fatals per month. The number that I'm trying to get to go lower is that big one that's been 20, 19, and 18. We finished up 2023, the whole year, we finished it up at just shy of 14 general aviation fatal accidents per month. It's been stair-stepping down. It's not me. I'm not trying to claim credit for it. It's social media, ADSB, Instagram. It's the fact that you guys are looking at social media and trying to pay attention to this stuff. It is creeping its way down. We ended up 2023 at just shy of 14 per month. The first 1/3 of the year that we just got done right now, our number was 8.02. 8. I've never seen an 8. Now the year's not over, and you guys still have some flying to do. So do not end up on my sheet, because I will put your picture on YouTube. Here's how Pedro died. Here's Pedro's last words. You know what Pedro's going to want on his tombstone? On his tombstone, it's going to say, I expected this. We have got to, in general aviation, eventually embrace the concept. I can teach Pedro the chandelle and the steep turn for the next 3 years. It will not prepare him for the situation that's going to happen to him. Does that make sense? That's all it is. You guys are going to see AQP. There's some other things involved in AQP. Who here has ever heard of an RTO? Who here's got a pilot's license of some kind? Raise your hand. Yes. Out of those, who has heard of an RTO? Well, there's one guy in the back. He's done a few of them. That's a rejected takeoff. You have to have the basis of deciding whether to stop your 172 on takeoff by knowing that it's not making power or the brakes are dragging, you've got tailwind, you don't have enough performance to try to take this airplane into the air. You have to reject your own takeoff. You don't reject it by deciding what the problem is and trying to troubleshoot while you're in the process of taking off. All you do is you make the decision to stop. The decision to stop is based on a parameter, it's based on a metric. We did not meet the metric. When you get to the airlines, there's going to be a metric called V1. Prior to V1, you can stop. After V1, which is a speed, after V1, the decision has been made for you, and what are you going to do? You're going to go. That's 121 stuff. You're going to see it. How about minimum maneuvering speed? Anybody here, anybody that has flown an airplane that has seen in a flight manual, any kind of airplane that tells you what speed that you fly on the downwind leg, downwind to base, what speed do you fly? Somebody tell me what speed you fly in your airplane, day VFR, downwind to base. What speed are you at? I'm sorry? 90? Anybody else? Come on, you guys are flyers. 80? All right. Give me a couple more. Speed, downwind to base, whatever airplane you're in. What speed are you aiming for?
95.
I'm sorry?
95.
85?
95.
95? Good. What kind of airplane is that?
Cessna 172.
Okay. 95. Okay. Now, so far I've heard some numbers here. The numbers that I've heard are big, fat, round numbers. Where did 80 come from? Was that actually in the book? Where did 90 come from? Is that in the manual? No, it's not. It's just what your flight school said, well, this kind of works, so we'll do that. There's a thing called a min maneuvering speed. When you guys get to the airlines, you know what VA is, right? Tell me what VA is. It's maneuvering speed. What's the definition of maneuvering speed? It's the max speed at which full and abrupt control surfaces may be applied in any direction to not exceed the G limit on your... Okay, that's the book definition of what VA is. When you get to the airlines, you got to recognize that VA is not a max speed at which full and abrupt controls can be applied. VA is a minimum. When you're flying an Airbus 330 and it says flaps 1, min maneuvering speed, that's the minimum. That's the slowest you can go in that configuration. Everything at the airlines is based on a minimum. Don't go slower than this. Do the airlines have AOA? No, they don't. Airlines have indicated airspeed just like you do. Your entire world is all indicated airspeed. Yes, there's other things that we can do in the airplane. You can put G meters and AOA, you can do all that stuff. Every airplane you'll ever fly in the civilian market is going to be based on indicated airspeed, just like you're doing right now. So the point is, why don't we learn what min maneuvering speed is and come up with a number? The number for the 172 should be something like 78.2. It's an actual number. There is an actual definable number, and you can figure out what that is supposed to be. And the difference, what the airlines and AQP did, they started marking it. How do you mark an airspeed indicator in an airliner? It's on the tape. All right, so tell us what a tape is.
That's it's the band under the FD.
Yes. So some of you guys are flying steam gauge, some of you guys are flying electronic, like G1000. I saw a couple simulators here this morning, G1000 stuff in there. That's the tape on the side. Some of those speeds are marked on the speed tape. You can mark the speeds on the speed tape on your G1000, but all the airlines have all the speeds depending on the airplane. You know, I flew everything from the raw DC-9, MD-88, 75, 76, 777. All those airplanes are all different. Some of them analog, pure analog airspeed indicators with slidable bugs. You have like 6 of these white bugs that slide around the ring of the airspeed indicator. You set each min maneuvering speed because you cannot. Now, I keep on picking on my friend back here. Tell me what your name is. Alan. What do you think Alan would say if he and I were flying the Airbus 330 together and it was my leg and I was flying in the min bug speed for flaps 5? If I was flying DVFR and I came in, the min bug speed was 182 and I came in and I was at 180, what would Alan be saying? Speed. Would he say anything to me about it? Yes, he would. Depends on who's the captain, who's left seat, but we don't mess around with min speed. The other guy is going to go speed, 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 speed. Eventually, someone's going to put some power in. Someone's going to get on the controls. We're going to fix this. Do you have a little bit of fudge in there? Yes, you do. But we don't play around with min speed. The problem with GA is we don't even know what your min speed is. You guys are flying around there in the DVFR traffic pattern. You've never even heard of min speed, and you certainly don't have one bugged, and you certainly don't have any knowledge of it. Why? You're using 90 or 80. What is it that the FAA wants you to have at all times? What do they want you to have? For protection. There's a buffer I'm talking about here. What do they want you to have for protection? Who said that? Alan, I think you're going to be an okay student. You are looking good. You could possibly plus five. You could possibly graduate from this thing. Yes. You got to have it. Okay, so that's what they did. You got to have a minimum moving speed. This is all AQP stuff. How about before you go and taxi your airplane? You jump in your 172, you get engine start. What kind of checklist do you do after you start your engine? What's it called? After start checklist. Now, once you get your after start checklist and tower says you can taxi, what's the next thing that you're doing? Well, you should probably have a before taxi checklist, and before the airplane moves, you should have flaps configured for whatever you're going to use, your GPS set, your course set, your comm set. Don't move your airplane while it's in motion. Those are all AQP things. Positive exchange of controls. You have to do everything. There's no reason that you are unable to start learning those basic things today, because they are going to beat you with it eventually. Learn about the RTO, learn about your min maneuvering speed, learn about your checklist, learn how to call a checklist complete. Do it the AQP airline way. It certainly can't hurt you. It's going to make you that much more polished and ready, so that when you get there, you already speak the language. You're already doing it perfect. And what's the big benefit to all this? Well, you're quite a bit safer. Be quite a bit safer. If you take the AQP concepts for your little airplanes and convert those over, then you're even more ready. What are the odds that I could bring Pedro up here right now and do the exact same routine to him 20 minutes later? What are the odds that Pedro is going to be ready for that? Pretty high. He's seen it. Now, here, watch this. Come here, Pedro. Check this out. Now, check this out. Now that he's been through this, look at this. He's keeping his distance, and he's keeping an eye on me. He's fully ready for whatever can happen. See there? Before, he's just kind of whatever, and he's going to get sucker punched by this thing. Now, he's already been in this environment. He knows he's in the danger zone right now. Something is about to happen, and he's about to be ready for it. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, big hand for Pedro. Wasn't that awesome? Pedro stayed up late last night getting ready for this. I mean, I think you have a career in this. If the flying thing doesn't work out, this is all going to be good. Joe, tell me on my time schedule. It's 12:10. What time does pizza get here? Okay, all right. I'm going to take a few questions, then I'm going to take a quick lunch break. Does any of that make sense to you on what we just went over? I am spending a tremendous amount of time getting this concept across, pushing this stuff, visiting any place I can. I do these things. I'll be in Portland, Oregon next week, speaking to 3 different places, giving AQP flight reviews to people in Portland. I do it for free. I don't charge any money. I go out there. Next week it'll be actually kind of fun. I'm going to take a banjo. They got a dinner. I'm the speaker at their dinner next week. It's a captive audience. I'm going to take a banjo. They can't get out. They're stuck. We locked the door. Perfect. But I'm going to tell them what the deal is. Here's not how to die in your airplane. Here's some things that you ought to be doing. Now I'm going to talk real quick about min maneuvering speed. I call it DMMS. If you want to look it up, defined minimum maneuvering speed. It is 30%. You've got to have 30% at all times. When you come in and fly your approach, you're a 30% airplane. You're going to hear it called when you get to AQP. Alan, what are they going to call it when they're flying the approach? What is that number? VREF. Yeah, sorry, I'm blindsided. VREF. You're going to hear about VREF over and over and over again. VREF is 1.3 times the stalling speed of the 777 in landing configuration. We just don't call it 1.3 times the stalling speed of the 777 in landing configuration. That's not what we call it. We just say VREF. What's VREF? Well, the computer tells us, the bug spits it out, we put it on the tape. We call it VREF. When we say VREF, everybody knows that's holy grail. What would be happening, Alan, if we flew in together and Dan was flying and I got 1 knot below VREF? What would Alan be saying?
V.
Yeah. Everybody be screaming. No. No. Not 1 knot. We are going to honor those speeds 100%. You can go a little bit above it. Sometimes we do VREF plus 5. Sometimes we add a few knots for grandma or Alan's girlfriend. Whatever we want to do, we can add a little bit. We just can't bust it. It's an absolute line in the sand. You guys can have a VREF in your little airplanes. You can know what your VREF is when you go to take your check ride. Whatever your check ride is, the ACS is going to tell you 1.3 VSO in landing configuration. They don't call it, FAA and the ACS does not call it VREF, but that's what they're talking about, 1.3 VSO. Can you fly red over white on speed with all checklists complete? If you did that, red over white, you followed your PAP, your VASI down, where would you touch down if you were 1.3 VSO, red over white, and perfect? Where would you touch down on the runway? 1,000 footers. What do the 1,000 footers look like? That's your white boxes. If you do it just right, can you fly exactly on VREF, not less, VREF to VREF plus a little, all down final, and touch down in the white boxes? That's what you have to do when you get to be your commercial pilot level. You got to do a couple of these things. What is it that you're using to maintain red over white on VREF? What's the one thing that you have to do this? Thrust. You got to have power. You lose your engine, that's a different deal. You're not going to maintain red over white and VREF both. Can't do it. You ever see an airliner coming into an airport? You can hear them. They're into the power. The nose is high. They're fully configured, and they're going. That's 2 guys sitting up there looking at this thing. They're looking at the runway. They're looking at the PAPI, and they're looking at red over white. That's all they're doing. You can do the exact same thing. I can promise you, if I went out and flew with every one of you guys today, 99% of you could not fly red over white on VREF. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. You're sacrificing, you're putting up with, you're accepting a landing based on how your tires touch the ground. Guess what? We don't care how your tires touch the ground. Who cares? You're going for a nice landing? I don't care about a nice landing. We'll change the tires. I want you red over white on speed with checklist complete in the white boxes. That's where I want you. Okay, so you went, whatever. Where are you going to die? you're gonna die red over red and below speed. That's where you're gonna die, and then the tires don't matter anyway. Learn to fly, red over white, on speed, checklist complete. That's a stabilized approach. It's 1.3 VSO, you have to do it. When you get to where you're going to be, you are definitely gonna get checked on that. A stabilized approach is an AQP check ride. Absolutely. Day VFR, check ride, visual traffic pattern in the simulator. No matter how big the airplane, you're still going to do it. They want to know if you can turn the auto throttles, the flight director off, and land your airplane on a runway 1.3, which in their world, they're only going to call it VREF. Can you stay VREF with manual throttles, no flight director, and fly in and land the airplane? Can you do it? It's a check ride. Absolutely. You can start conditioning your brain right now to being able to do all that. That's all AQP is. I encourage you to start thinking about it. You're gonna see it. There is no disadvantage to learning about it today and start evolving your thinking into what's going to happen to you later. Pizza's about to be here. I'll take a question or two. If anybody's got a question or anything else that I haven't covered. Yes, sir.
What is your YouTube?
My YouTube is a channel that I use to put social media. It's called Probable Cause Dan Grider, and it's really little, so it's not a big deal. I don't monetize. I don't do advertising, Patreon. I don't do any of that stuff for money. This deal here today, this is not a money thing. They don't pay me to go to these things, but I'm traveling around trying to do this thing. I put a lot of work into building these videos. You got to admit, most of them are pretty cheesy, pretty lame, but they actually do pretty good. And the growth of it has been, really, it's done well. I'm totally surprised. If you saw how amateur my videos are, I did my very first video editing like 2.5 years ago. Anybody do any video editing here? Got this computer and I installed Vegas Pro on it. And I'm like, what is this? But once you get into it, video editing is totally fun. And now I've got so many cameras you can't believe it. I've got GoPro sound. We're fixing to produce a video that'll come out in a couple of weeks. Last weekend, I've always wanted to do this. We took the DC-3 out. I've got another friend that's got all the tech capability. He's building a video for me in 4K. I took the DC-3 out and I wanted to make a flight solo. Didn't even have anybody with me in the left seat. I went out and flew it for 20 minutes, put it through its paces. I went the full length of the runway on one wheel, and then I had a 1,200-foot grass strip. I landed it on a 1,200-foot grass strip just to show the capabilities of the airplane. And we've already looked at the video. All the video came out great. You'll see, if you watch the channel, you'll see that video coming out in the next couple weeks. DC-3 was built in 1938. I've owned it for 24 years. I've flown it and flown it and flown it. I've given hundreds of type ratings in that thing. Honestly, the thing fits me like a glove. I think I like it because it's old and I'm old. I mean, there is nothing computerized in a DC-3. In fact, you know what DC stands for in the DC-3? Direct cable. I mean, everything is a bicycle cable that goes we don't have any computers in there. There's nothing computerized. Now, I guess that's how come I like it so much. There's not really anything to fail. Things gonna work. But it's a cool airplane. It weighs about 26,000 pounds. When I was flying it last week, we were flying it way down. Nobody on board, completely stripped out of gas. Well, kind of out of gas. Just enough gas to go make a flight with enough reserve. I was flying it down at around 18,000 pounds, which is light as a feather. And you could tell. Wait to see this footage where we put this thing up. I'm in the right seat and I make this takeoff, and you set the power. Literally, now I've got all these knobs. I'm sitting in the right seat. I got all these knobs. I got to reach over. I got to put my own gear up, which is 2 knobs. Then reach up and grab these 4 knobs to start pulling power back. Airplane's flying itself. It's in trim. You can see it after takeoff. I totally let go of the wheel, reach over and go like this. I'm looking straight ahead and I pull the power back. Everything's good. Airplane just kind of goes like this. It's a big, fat, dumb, slow airplane. It just kind of sits there. It just kind of does what it's supposed to do, and it's been an absolute blast. I already forgot your original question. What was it? Did I answer your question? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Anything else? All I can do for you before the pizza gets here. Then we're going to take a quick restroom break, and the pizza will be here. And then I think, let's see, it's 12:20. I think we're going to take a quick pizza break, and then we'll come back. I got about 10 more minutes of stuff that we're going to do. We're supposed to get out of here at 1 p.m. So we'll do a restroom break and then food. We'll come back here, and I'm going to do like 12:45 to 1 p.m. If that's cool with everybody. Is that an okay schedule? Is that good with you? Okay. All right. Well, that's all I've got. I appreciate you guys inviting me, and I appreciate you not throwing things. Let's take a break. All right, I've just got a few minutes left to go, and you guys will be out of here in just a few minutes. You do get full credit for attending Dan's cheesy safety stand-down seminar at your aviation college, and I appreciate you guys coming in. The pizza was great. It was totally awesome. Seems kind of weird to think that I went all the way to Baltimore for 2 slices of pizza, but that's pretty much what happened. It's all good. Sometimes I go to these places, I end up on a hangar floor with a sleeping bag, and it is what it is. You know, I'm there, and we're in for the duration. Don't really take much to learn to sleep someplace. You guys are going to see this when you get into your flying career. You're going to have to sleep in places, go places. You're going to have to eat vending machine food. You're going to have to be on these crazy schedules. You're going to have 13-hour work days. You're going to have to fly in the bad weather, and you're going to have to sleep on the terminal floor, because that's the way it ended up. And you're just going to have to do that. You have a whole set of things you're about to have to go do that you would never have considered ever doing before for this whole thing called aviation career. You're going to have to do it, but it's going to be worth it. I can tell you the places that you're going to go, the things you're going to get to do, the things that you'll see, the sights that you'll see. I've been all over the world. I have been every country, every nook and cranny. I can tell you where the best places to eat are in every state in America, and I can drive there. Alan will tell you, you can do it. You've been there. You've been to these places. Now, flying corporate and little airplanes helps out a lot because you're always in a smaller airport, things like that. But it's a fantastic career. It's an opportunity. The hiring right now is wide open. Probably still going to be for a little bit, and you can make good money. You can make some serious change right now. It wasn't like when Alan and I started out. Too many pilots, nobody wants to pay you, and everything's bad. Things are totally changed around. Your opportunity right now, I've never seen anything like it. Never. You just got to stay alive. This whole thing that you're doing right now, I can't tell you how much danger you're in. You're in a flight school, flying with an inexperienced CFI, doing things that you shouldn't be doing in a piston airplane, over terrain, over buildings. This is going to happen to you. You're going to lose an engine on takeoff. I can promise you, if you lose an engine in your flight training airplane and you stall it, spin it, you got zero chance. Zero. And I'll put your picture on YouTube. If you fly that airplane wings level into wherever you can, you at least got a 50-50 chance. You'll probably be okay. Don't stall that thing. Take it in wherever you can. I got these numbers. I'll put them on the screen here. These are our numbers for 2024. These are fatals. Each one of these numbers represents a pilot. Probably had 1 or 2 people on board. We've had a total of 32 fatal accidents, general aviation in the United States, since January 1 of 2024. I remember January 1, 2024, because I was out New Year's Eve the night before. Now, New Year's Eve the night before, I don't remember a lot about that. But you guys are college kids. You don't know anything about it. 2024, we're at 32. Does that sound like a big number or a little number? It's actually pretty little. This number should be 72. We should have 18 a month. We should be at 72. We finished the first third of the year at 32. Well, it's not good, but we're making a step in the right direction. And every time somebody prangs it in and we see what they did wrong, you guys lay in bed and look at it on YouTube and a light bulb comes on. talk a little bit about some of these accidents that are on here. I got these sheets that I produce here. They are pretty cheesy, but I am You guys ever use Microsoft Word? I just figured that out last year. The thing's great. You ought to see it. I mean, the stuff you can do with Microsoft Word, and then PowerPoint. PowerPoint. Well, yeah, I got a guy that does all my PowerPoint stuff for me. It's totally awesome.
So you excel at using Word now?
I don't use Excel. I have never been on Excel. Do you use Excel? No.
It would save you a lot of time with statistics.
I probably would. Well, I compute everything manually. I don't have to do any statistics for these. I just write down their name, their age, where they were, what their end number was, and what the conclusion is, what they do. So I'm going to read through very quickly because we've only got just a minute here. We got about 7 minutes. January, number 1, a failed rejected takeoff. This guy died from a failed rejected takeoff. That's how he died. He didn't know what a rejected takeoff was, and he did not try to stop. He should have stopped, and he could have stopped. That's a failed RTO. Stall spin. This guy got in the ice. This one, number 5, was the Venice maneuver. Venice, Florida. These day VFR pilots are down there in Venice, Florida. They take off with their family on board. After dinner, they take off out over the water. They're a VFR pilot, and what happens to them? Spatial disorientation. Why? Because the lights are all behind them. They're out over the water. 2 airplanes back to back. Same thing, same runway, same city, Venice, Florida. Within about 4 months of each other, the wreckages hit in the water at about the same place. They took off. All the lights are gone. They should have transitioned to instruments and just gone hardcore and keeping wings level, keep it climbing, and they would have been okay. They went by sensation, seat of the pants. Both airplanes hit about the same space. So that was another one. I call it the Venice maneuver. Another low tot, loss of thrust on takeoff. Another Venice scenario. This guy hit the tower, guy wires. Here's another one. Was doing a mini air show. And then number 11 for January, the last one with low tot. Low tot is loss of thrust on takeoff. You take off, you're gonna get to about 300 or 400 feet, and your engine's gonna quit. Doesn't sputter a little bit, it just shuts off. What's your first reaction? Better lower the nose. You better lower the nose a lot. Like, you better lower the nose a lot. Make a little left or a little right, but do not turn around. That's January, that's the 11th for there. February, we only had 4. One of them was a flight training airplane, a VMC roll. You guys get your multi-engine stuff, you're gonna have to do a VMC demonstration. It's horrible. We've lost 4 multi-engine flight training airplanes in the US in the last 18 months. All of them students with instructors demonstrating the VMC roll, and yes, they VMC rolled it, they stalled it, they spun it. Even from 4,000 feet, could not get it out. You ought to hear the cockpit voice or the ATC tape of this November 87 Charlie, which happened in Pennsylvania just on the first day of February. Had an engine abnormal. This guy hit a power line, and then the 4th one was another low top. That's February. March. Here's the dying number for March. Mishandled abnormal. The first 2 were mishandled abnormal. March 2, this Globe Swift, 2 guys, each guy had 12,000 hours total. They're flying a Globe Swift. They have an engine problem in flight. Day of VFR cruise, they're at 2,500 feet. They have an engine problem. The engine's not running right. It wasn't on takeoff. They were up high. They ended up dying because they stalled their airplane. They did not pay attention to airspeed, pitch. They didn't lower the nose. Once that airplane rolled over and stalled, they're both dead. No way to fix it. No way to fix it. Mishandled abnormal, the first 2. Stall spin, wind shear, hit a wire, mishandled abnormal, messed up go around. You guys got to know how to do a go around. You're only flying the little underpowered airplanes right now, but someday you're going to be flying a really nice airplane with a lot of power, a 3-bladed prop, and a turbocharger. You push that power in, what's the airplane want to do? Roll. It wants to roll. What aggravates the roll problem? High deck angle is going to aggravate your roll problem. You got to know that when you bring the power in, you got to lower the nose. Lower the nose, turn it into a low pass. Practice your go-arounds. You've already got flaps. When you're landing, how are you trimmed? Well, you're trimmed for landing. You push the power in, you're already trimmed for nose up. You got flaps, you retract the flaps, the torque wants you to roll left, and over you go. Can't fix it. It's because you were not ready for the go-around. You were not ready. We call that, you died from a messed up go-around. Nothing wrong with the airplane, nothing wrong with the pilot. You did not perform the go-around properly.
Are there any other, I don't know if you're getting these probable causes from the NTSB or your own analysis, but are there any other factors pertaining?
To which one?
Any of them. So loss of thrust, was it carburetor heat or engine quit? I mean, what other things led into it?
Perfect question. There's the one I've been waiting for all day. NTSB. See this on my hat here? That's DTSB. NTSB is your government agency. They're going to take 3 years. In each one of these, they're going to try to figure out, was there an O-ring inside the carburetor? Is that what failed? Was there a spring? Was there a latch? Did something break? They're looking for the mechanical solution to what caused it. I don't give a flying what happened to the engine. I don't care why the engine quit. I want to know what you do after the engine quit. I promise you, your engine is going to quit. We cannot make a reliable engine. We cannot build a 100% reliable engine. Can't be done. All I can tell you is they're going to pick through, and NTSB is going to take 3 years to try to figure out the float valve and the carburetor, the spring-loaded gizmo that failed. So what? Did Pedro lower the nose or not? That's all I want to know. Did he do it? No, he did not. And you got his picture on YouTube. That's all it is. Pedro, don't.
I feel like I got obligated to be your mascot now.
Yes. So, huge big difference. NTSB, here's another question for you. The last 10 years, how many accidents has NTSB investigated just in the U.S.? General aviation accidents, how many have they investigated in the last 10 years? 13,000. Not of them were fatal. About 1,500 of them were fatal. How many accidents in the U.S. general aviation have they investigated? 13,000. Now, what do we do with all that data? The job of the NTSB is probable cause and recommendation. You tell me how many recommendations NTSB has made in the last 10 years. 13,000 incidents, how many recommendations have they made? Best guess. 13. Yeah. 13. I'm not talking 1,300. I'm talking 13. 13,000 incidents that they've investigated, pulled the airplane apart, tried to figure it out, and spent 3 years in paperwork and government money, and you're going to come up with 13 recommendations? That's it? We're not learning. NTSB is not going to give you any information. They're not in business to help you prevent the next one. They're in business to self-sustain and justify their budget. That's all they want to do. I'm not a government guy. I don't like it. We're spending $500 million per year on the NTSB. We're getting nothing for it. Nothing. There is no change occurs. Even if they found out what the problem is, NTSB has no authority to go in and mandate. They're not the FAA. All they can do is make a recommendation. That's like getting a note from the patrol boy at school. Well, you walked across the side. Well, okay, you're still a patrol boy, What does that mean? You get a note from the NTSB that we think this is a probable cause. Even if they did issue a recommendation, which they're not, it doesn't mean anything. Nobody has to change anything. FAA gets recommendations from NTSB, they just throw them in the trash. So what? Doesn't do anything for anything. So that was March. I'm going to conclude with April here. This is the very last one here. Another low tot. This one, unfortunate, very unfortunate. Fire on board. In-flight breakup. Icing. This is a DMMS fatal. In-flight breakup. Messed up go-around. The in-flight breakups, you guys do not fly your airplanes into the weather. I don't care how good you are. Your airplane will not stay apart in convective activity. They will not stay together. You fly that little airplane, your airplane is made out of aluminum. It's so thin it makes a beer can look stout. It's a tiny little frail piece of garbage, thin, lightweight, structural atrocity that you're riding in. And you put a seatbelt on and you think you're safe. No, the seatbelt only straps you to the wreckage so we can find you later. This is a piece of garbage you're flying around in. The whole thing only weighs 1,200 pounds. and you want to strap yourself into the seat and go out and fly this thing, stay out of the weather, stay out of the ice, stay out of the weather. You fly this thing into a thunderstorm. You guys hear the story about the kid up in Kentucky? The 2 students were flying around, whenever that was, 6 months ago, out at nighttime building. They found one wing over here, 2 miles away. They found another wing. You take your airplane apart in flight, the odds of you surviving it is not good. And he got his picture on YouTube. Well, I'm sorry. They had a phone. They looked at it. He even sent somebody a text and said, "This is horrible. We're going through it anyway," or something like that. No. Don't do it. 2 structural fatals in the last 30 days flying along, pulled the wings off the airplane in flight. I don't know about you, but that's not a good thing to do. Don't do that. You have the decision-making capability. You tell your instructor, ain't going. Don't like it. Ain't going. You cannot take your airplanes into that kind of stuff. And your flight school is not going to tell you that. You got to have the decision-making, the pilot and command authority to say, ain't doing it. Going to the house. Avoid flying at night. I know you got to do some night flying. Single engine piston. Night flying is kind of a crazy deal. I'm going to conclude with a little story here. These 20 scenarios, I thought that I would never expand on the 20. I have actually expanded on the 20. I have LOTOT on that list, loss of thrust on takeoff. What's even worse than LOTOT? Well, it's called ROTOT. ROTOT is even worse. ROTOT is reduction of thrust on takeoff. Now this is when you make a takeoff in your airplane, your engine doesn't actually quit. Your engine just rolls back. You still have some power, lulling you into thinking that everything is totally cool and that you can turn around. You'd be better off if the thing just totally quit. Then the decision has been made for you. Well, you're going right here. If it quits, your possibilities right here. If it rolls back at a 172, if it rolls back to 2100 RPM, what do you got for options? Well, it ain't good, but it will cause you to be able to sustain flight and fly a little bit further. Could it possibly lull you into thinking that you can use that 2100 RPM to make it back to a runway? Everybody wants to make it back to the runway. There's no paperwork and nobody finds out about it. Good. We made it back to the runway. You know what I'd rather see you do? You're in a flight school airplane, that thing rolls back to 2100. You got a field right here, stick it in the field and call the guy. Here's where airplane is. It rolled back. You come and get it. I'm alive, full flaps, put it in the field. You try to turn this thing around and make it back to the airport, you're getting up in a 40-degree bank, and then you're counting on this 2100. You already got a sick engine. Murphy's Law tells you that when you turn this thing around, the rest of it's going to go. AOPA, I'm not a fan of AOPA, never have been. AOPA had this guy named Dick McSpadden a few years ago. You might have heard the name. He and I butted heads for years over this entire concept. He was demonstrating that the impossible turn could be made. I don't know if you remember this accident, but he made a lot of videos. I countered him with opposite videos. Do not do that. You take the best off-field place that you could get, you put it in that field, off-field, and it goes to a place. He and I stayed like this. I was driving last October 1, my phone rang. Somebody called me and they said, Dick McSpadden's dead. And I said, yeah, how you figure? I said, well, we don't know much about it. Just crashed an airplane up in New York. I was like, what? So within the next couple hours, I started getting information like I normally do. He took off in a Cessna Cardinal. He got a ROTOT. I went to New York 3 weeks after the crash. I took an airplane. I went up there. I flew the departure. I figured out what his route was. You know, after takeoff, he had a chase plane with him. They were doing an air-to-air. They had a chase plane with him. He had so many opportunities to land that airplane either straight ahead or a golf course here or something here. He flew 4 miles out and tried to milk this thing around in a right-hand turn all the way back to the airport. Problem was the airport sat up on a plateau, kind of elevated, and off the approach end of this runway was a very steep embankment, like really steep. They turned it around, made it almost back to the airport, but ran out of energy, ran out of molecules. Where did the airplane hit? Right straight into the embankment. Not enough to kill both guys, but they were severely hurt. They actually laid there and suffered because it was so hard to get anybody to this location. You couldn't get a person or a vehicle to. It hit like 12 feet below the top of the plateau. They almost made it. And I went and looked at this thing. I flew it. I took video. Why? Just landed right here. Wide open field. What's the problem with landing it off field? So that category is now in my scenarios. That's a rotot. You're going to get an engine that not only it doesn't fail, it rolls back. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous because it's going to cause you. This is like a girlfriend that tells you everything's okay. Not true. When she says I love you and everything's good, no. This engine's going to talk to you and it's going to say, okay, I've got a little bit of a problem, but but everything's good. We're going to make it back. No, you ain't going to make it back. You find where you got to put this thing, put it in the field, unbuckle, pick up your phone and call the guy and tell him here's where your airplane is, come and get it. That's all you got to do. Insurance will take care of it. All you're trying to do is unbuckle, step out, and be alive. That's all I care about. If you'll do that, you will not make it on my list. And I will not put your picture on YouTube. That's all it is. Now, I want you guys to do me a favor. I did you a favor. I came up here and ate your pizza. I took a little bit of a hit last week on this other guy out here. Do me a favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Drop in some comments. Look at it. I'm trying to build a channel. It's got nothing to do with money. I don't monetize this. I don't sell anything off there. I'm trying to get more flight students, flight schools, stuff like that. Just hit the whatever that button is on there for subscribe on there. And if I could pick up all these subscribers today, that'd be kind of cool. That's all I've got. Any other questions before I go here? I'm going to catch my flight and go back home. Anything else? Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say to everybody, Captain Dan gave everybody here priceless information. Priceless. You can't buy these tools. And the job that he's describing, I can't think of any better for a working man to have. I've thought about it for years. The airline flying is the best. Listen to what he's saying. It's a long road.
Here, I tell you what, Alan, I'm going to turn this video off here. So why don't you come up here and say that into the camera here? I don't think the people in the audience here can hear what they're saying. It would be cool to get an endorsement from an actual guy, instead of a college kid that he understands what it was that we're talking about here. So this is my friend Alan, and tell these guys what you said out here.
For our CCBC program here, there's Captain Dan gave us information, just like I said, is priceless. Priceless. The job he's talking about, airline flying, I've thought for decades, could there be a better one? As a working man, I couldn't come up with one. But it's a long road to get there. And you gotta listen to this stuff because single engine flying, 60-year-old airplanes, single piloted, nighttime, weather, it's
It's a bad
precarious.
idea. What a bad, you could have been basket weavers. What were you guys thinking? This pilot thing. No. All right, thank you, Alan. I sure appreciate it.
Captain Dan.
All right, sounds good. I'm gonna let you guys go, get back to class, and make sure you do your homework and everything here. Thank you very much.